Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm so excited. I am so excited to have Kathy Sharp and Tom Ray here as our experts for this topic tonight about helping yourself, your family, and your community. And this is a lot about helping community in a disaster. I'm looking forward to learning how someone like me, living on the 14th floor and not all that eager to be going down and back up again, can help community too. So I'm looking forward to this. So with no more wasted time, here's Kathy Sharp, and she'll introduce Tom.
Thank you. I'm not sure if I should stand on my stool or on the ground, but one way or the other.
Whatever's most comfortable.
So I'm Kathy Sharp, and this is my partner, Tom Ray. And I wanted to say that Tom is a retired physician, and he's going to give a little talk first, and then I'll continue. And I'm a retired nurse, and I'm also assistant professor, and I just have a lot of 40 years of experience, so one way or the other. So without taking any more time, Tom will take over.
Well, I'm glad so many of you could come out and enjoy this evening. Maybe I should be sitting down.
Take the mic, the hand mic.
I'm good. You've all been exposed to the big story of the big one, the Cascadia subduction earthquake. You've probably heard more of it than you wish to know. And typically it is presented with a lot of scare and, oh my gosh, how will we ever? And leaving you with a bit of angst about what you're going to do. The primary comments I want to make are to really just put the principal things that you're going to need to be aware of. A magnitude 9 earthquake is exceptionally uncommon. Unfortunately, they're not that uncommon on the west coast of Oregon and Washington. Okay, now I gotta stand up on a stool. Tell you what, let's do this. All right, does that work? And ideally, the earthquake is going to be about 90 miles offshore. A magnitude 9 earthquake is not just a slam, bam, knock you around for a few seconds. It is knock you around for a few seconds, and then a few seconds more, and then a minute, and another minute, and can be as long as 5 minutes of being tossed around like you're in the middle of a slow motion train wreck, which is probably mild compared to what it can do. So when you have an earthquake that exceeds a minute and a half, you know you're in for the big one. And don't be surprised if it goes on much longer than you think. Since I started talking, it's still much less than 5 minutes, and think if you're just being jostled around. So the adage of drop, cover, and hold on is very important, because you will be just as mobile as your furniture, your dresser, other furniture items in your house. Try to get under something, try not to be where something's going to come down on you or something sturdy over you, and then just hold on until it's over. And that may be much longer than you want to. There'll be a lot of things for you to clean up, and the first thing of your survival is to be self-resilient. You're going to have to initially take care of yourself, and that's to tend to what you need, what things you have, try to look after what you've prepared for, food, water, etc. Try to put things back in order, tend to any damages that need immediate attention, like maybe there was a fire. Do the things that are important for you and your family first. Then worry about what you could do otherwise. The setting is going to be most likely no electrical power. That power can be interrupted anywhere from the power transmission lines from the dams or the generators, or anywhere right up to the wiring in your walls breaking or being disrupted. You probably will not have any water. Again, the water from Bull Run to your tap is vulnerable at numerous points. So you probably will not have any water, or if you do, it may be contaminated. You probably will not have any gas. The gas valves around the buildings are automatically tripped by an earthquake. They have motion detectors that will shut the gas valve off at about a magnitude 4.5 earthquake. So the gas will be off. Don't expect to be able to heat your place with your fireplace. And in fact, you probably wouldn't want to do that because the electricity will be off, and the fans that exhaust the burnt gas fumes up and out the ceiling won't do that, and you could get backed up and have carbon monoxide. Going back to pipes. Pipes are fragile. The water pipes in the building are likely at some point or multiple points to break, so do expect there may be some water damage. That's the water coming in, and it may be necessary to turn off the water within your unit or within your floor or maybe the whole building, and that will be done with the management and other early responders. Also, the plumbing is likely to break as well, so you probably will not be able to use your drains. Now, if I painted a very miserable, awful sounding story, it's primarily to get you to think, because if you don't plan, you won't be able to respond properly. And the whole point is to plan for the worst and hope for the best. Doing it in reverse, hoping that nothing bad happens, is not a plan. So I've painted a bad picture. I'm hoping for two reasons: that all of you will come up to me after the event happens, if it ever does, and tell me, oh, you had it all wrong. It wasn't so bad. We didn't lose our water, etc., and so on. And I will be very, very happy to receive that, primarily for the second reason, because that will be that you, and especially me, survived the big one. All of that stuff we've covered in other town halls. So what we're going to discuss tonight is what we as a group can do for ourselves collectively, and principally in how to establish and work together to help injured individuals, people with special needs, and to establish some kind of medical or first aid care triage center. And Kathy is going to be our resident expert on that.
Thanks, Tom. Well, I wanted to be sure that I thank you for coming. I'm really pleased for the amount of people that are here, and hopefully you'll have some questions and thoughts, but we'd like you to save all of that for the end, please. And I will continue with a PowerPoint slideshow for you. So, next please. Next slide. So we're not going to be doing anything without a plan, because we have to come up with something that we can move from, a base. And so we're going to talk about tonight is a plan for that. And then we can deviate, and we can avoid chaos, and we can have more order. And I wanted, this all started because I was sitting in a meeting and we were talking about what could happen and what the response would be. And I heard someone say in a very honest tone, it will be chaos. And so I said to myself, gee, maybe there's a way to educate people so at least we have something to do, a way to put this whole thing together and not have that chaos. So that's why we're starting from this. And next slide, please. So think about this, we are stronger together than apart. And speaking of that, I wanted to thank John Lambert for putting this together, the AD, and the Emergency Preparedness Committee for supporting Tom and I on this venture, and the Viking Restaurant. Thank you so much. Next, please. So this is also based on the NET program. And Tom and I, and there are other people in this room who are NET trained. That's N-E-T, Neighborhood Emergency Team. And when there's an emergency, we were trained and we're continually being trained. In fact, there's a lecture tomorrow that we'll be attending on how to give disaster preparedness to the community and how to prepare them. And so this is based on that, so it'll be some of those words and terminology will come into that. So the mission, we always look at a mission, to do the greatest good for the greatest number of people. And that has a lot of implications. We won't go into them now, but keep considering that as we move through. That doesn't mean we do everything for everybody. It's not as simple as that. There are many variables that will occur. Okay, oh, sure. Okay, good. And you can all hear me now? That's perfect. Okay, under place, we're looking for options to set up an area that would take care of anybody that's injured. And as Tom said, you're going to take care of yourselves, just like the oxygen on the plane. Then you take care of your family. Then you clean up your place as best you can. But as soon as people can, we're going to look for volunteers. So this is all about volunteerism and also being a community, helping one another. So we're looking for a place, and there's some overriding principles that NET tells us to do. And one of them should be a safe distance from damage. Another is uphill and upwind of potential hazards. Another is enclosed if possible. And our thought is we'd love to use sivers if it's standing and safe and open. However, we have tents as well. So if we have to, if we can't be inside and there's no way we can be rescued right away, we will have tents available. And also we need to be accessible to transportation. If the roads are all broken, it's going to be harder, but certainly Sivers works very well. It's right close to the road. We can expect that the roads will be blocked, that no firefighters, no EMTs will come anytime soon. So we're on our own. And this is what this talk is about. A group of us, the 3 buildings and all the residents that are there that don't want to leave or can't leave are on our own. So we're going to try to keep us together and healthy as possible. Next, please. Oh, you're there. Volunteers. And the volunteers are the residents. And so we're always looking to recruit NET-trained people. And then SUVs, and that's the NET terminology for spontaneous untrained volunteers, and that is you. And then we're looking for medically trained people in our community. And then we can look at a wide variety of people that are in some way connected. to helping people. Psych-trained people, social workers, EMTs in our area, pharmacists, massage therapists, etc. I guess you get the picture. In addition, we're looking for cooks, and I'll explain how, why and how. Cleaners, scribes, those are people that will take down notes. Security, to watch over all our equipment. Runners, those are people that would run errands or take down messages or run messages around. And then all other residents that are available, because I can think of a lot. In fact, I have a lot for you to do. I have lists of what volunteers can do. And there's probably a lot more to add to that. We need to be able to develop a method of identifying volunteers. So we do have, I have some printed tags, also that can be pinned to clothing, also wide cloth tape. So that can be just written on and put on the back of a jacket. So these are just some examples of some ideas that I've come up with. Next, the time's way ahead of me. Good. The time of the disaster, how the situation will look will depend on the time of the disaster. So let's look at day. Well, do we have a lot of people in our buildings? No. A lot of people are out shopping, they're at work, they're at doctor's appointments, they're wherever. Okay? However, there's a lot of people in the city, and we'll get to the implication of that in a moment. Then at night, we have a lot of residents that will be here. So a lot of you will be affected if it occurs at night. Weather dependent is another issue. It could be windy or rainy. It could be a night like tonight. It could be extremely hot, or it could be a grand day or evening, but then we will be day after day after day. So the weather is very variable here. The environment, what I mean by that is the amount of destruction. And then the situation can be extremely chaotic, which is what we're hoping to avoid, but at first it will be very chaotic and noisy. What would make it noisy? Let's think about car alarms. Shaking, car alarms go off, so let's start with that. In fact, I have a great big bottle of earplugs that will be part of our supply. But it might be too late, you're way up on the 23rd floor or whatever, so you need to maybe get some earplugs. The situation will be emotionally charged. Why us, and so on and so forth. And possibly there'll be a supply shortage of things because we don't know if we have enough of everything. We're only guessing. But we all need to be flexible, willing to improvise plans, and expect to revise them. And that will be a normal course of events. We'll also need volunteers for security, and we'll talk a little more about that, but some of our supplies were already taken. So we know that we need to secure and watch things, and we'll have everything out. So that will be very important. And we need to not only protect those supplies, but I've mentioned a morgue area. If that should happen, we will also know what to do for that. And we'll get into that in a little bit, but not a whole lot. Under communication, we have 3 whiteboards. They're now being used, actually. They're in the communication rooms, but we're going to use those boards. So we'll pull them off the walls and bring them to wherever our command center and our medical center, setup center is. And so I have some markers and so on that we can write on the whiteboards. But, before I forget, anything that we write, it would be good to keep records because NET wants us to have records of how many people are injured, et cetera, et cetera. So we can take photos with a real camera maybe, or with your own phone of what we've been writing. So just keep that in mind. I don't expect everybody to remember anything really, but if you've heard it once, and that helps. As far as the windows and the lobby entrances go, why not write on those? So we have a window or tape things to them. So we have loads and loads of, in a sense, our own whiteboards every which way in the 3 buildings. So that's really nice. We also, if we're outside, I have waterproof paper and pencils, so you can write on, you can take your notes. Let's say at the beginning, the net people are going to be running out and checking the buildings. And so if notes need to be taken, we have that equipment. We'll need, and we're actually working on that right now, the radio liaison people. And those will be people like you, volunteers from APTCA. And you will, if you have experience as amateur radio operators, that would be much appreciated. And we're also learning to be radio operators as a committee, but we welcome anybody that wants to join in, because radios we think will be very important. The main radio will be from the command center, calling the other command centers in the city and giving them a report as the amount of injured, the amount of residents, and all the information that they need. And so then they know, I assume they'll just put us in line and then send help at some point. Then we'll also want logistic checks, so we'll be determining what supplies we can get to and what we can accumulate and put together. So there'll be somebody that will look for a volunteer that could do that, because that would be very helpful. Not one person can do it all. Next, please. Then the population that's affected. We have to consider who's in our immediate area. Okay, we have 3 buildings, 337 families. Not everybody will be there, the people are on vacation, etc. But there'll be quite a few people still available here. And then possibly the apartments, the businesses, like right here, in our area and around us. Pedestrians walking by on the street. Vehicles driving by. There's bound to be accidents and people injured in the vehicles. However, we have limited supplies, and we are a community, and we will be taking care of you all first. But you could see that it could involve a lot more than just us. Next. Then the setup. What will our setup look like? And so I have this picture in my head, and maybe you'll develop a picture as I talk about it. Well, we'd like to use Sivers, the big room, and that would be divided up into treatment areas. And it's called, the way we have the colors, it's called triage. And you have red, yellow, green, and I'll just define them a little later. And then we would want an area for mental health, and I can see that in the boardroom or even at the pool area, whatever. And then if we need it, we would have a morgue set up. And then we would need an intake area, and that would be the beginning. And that will be registering anybody that comes. Medical people that come will want to know when you can help and so on. And then all the volunteers will be asking for. Then we'll be looking for an intake area for the injured using the triage, and I have a chart I'll show you. When you have an injured person, they might be lucid at the moment, but then if they start to go downhill and can't identify who they are, and people that are injured look different than normally when you see them sitting like you all sitting here. So we really right away would put in on the Tyvek wristbands, and I have a supply, and I'm hoping I put them in the different caches, but we'll look at that, and we'll get as many as we think we need. And that's where we would write the information. Under equipment, lighting. Okay, there's no lights. It will be pitch black at night. So if we're caring for people, we need as much lighting as possible. So our committee has purchased a lot of lamps, and they're battery operated. And there's small ones and larger ones. They come in all different sizes. And they could be set on tables, strung from lines, etc. So, and also I purchased what we call a solar-powered inflatable lantern. That's a big square thing, but it can be powered by the sun, and it's also a lantern. And that's something we consider too. It sits nice, and you don't need a battery for it. Beds. What are we going to put injured people on? Blow-up mattresses work. Outdoor lounge furniture works. We have quite a collection. We certainly can get that together as needed. And then people like me who can't work off the floor could be able to take care of somebody without having to bend over so much. Sofa cushions and any other ideas that come from you, because we welcome all your ideas. We don't want anyone on the floor because we want to reduce conductive heat loss. So we have to have some protection as possible. Bedding, now we don't supply any bedding in our caches, we just don't have room. So we would be asking volunteers to collect bedding and pillows and any kind of blankets, sheets, whatever, to cover people. And then we would use the chairs and small tables from the outdoor furniture that we already own. So that's another way to put all that together. Next, please. The roles. Okay, we're looking for, and we would, Tom and I, we could jump into that role, but we travel a lot, so we're not necessarily here. So it would be whoever pretty much comes first to the area that would start becoming a director until somebody more qualified jumps in. And that's kind of how that works. So, but we were looking for a good organizer for starters. That's the first thing. It would be nice to have someone with a medical background, but everybody else can do the medicine part. We just need people organizing, and you'll see what there is to organize in just a few minutes. So we're looking for someone under the term medical director. Then a scribe, and again, I mentioned that for radio messaging, you're writing it down, or any kind of record keeping. And so we need, it's plural because we'll need scribes. We'll need volunteers to fill out forms, and when we're taking in people volunteering, after the immediate emergency, we're going to have them register, because the NET program asks us to register all of you, and so that would take some time, but we have the forms, it's just a matter of you signing it, but you'll be indemnified by the city in doing that. And I also want to mention along with that, that you would have the Good Samaritan law that would kick in as well, so when we get to the first aid part. Medical nets, we're asking we'll need people that are already trained as a net, that's a medical person, medical volunteers, like I said, you're indemnified, sitters for children. What happens if the parents are injured? What happens if their parents are separated? The parents are downtown shopping and you've got a child. So we have to consider that. And I did add sitters for animals because we did have our, I know we had a talk about animals as well. So those are kinds of things that need to be considered. And we'll get to more about the infirmed in a few minutes. Expertise, Tom, next slide. Resident skills are best determined ahead of time. So not right now, but later we're going to pass around 3x5 cards, I'll tell you when. And ask if you want to volunteer, if you think you know now that you could volunteer. We'd have you fill out some information on a card. It would be private. It would be put in that red box when you're done. And we have some names from a few years ago, but that list changes and we'd like to update it a little bit. And that way we kind of know who's available and so on. But we're looking for physicians and nurses, and I'm going to go through this list again, EMTs and first aid trained, dental personnel, veterinarians, Army medics, medical assistants, psych trained, social workers, anyone remotely connected to medical services. And those willing also to provide emotional care. You don't have to be connected to medical services. You have to be a kind person that can listen and sit with somebody. And please consider how you can be involved. We will eventually send out a survey if we need to, but we'll see who we can get to sign up now. And maybe you could pass the cards around to some tables, and let's see, at the end of the talk, I'll tell you what to write, what we'd like written on them. work shifts. Next slide. Okay, when we have a medical area, it doesn't close at the end of the day. Everybody goes home. If you have people that are injured there, it's going to be open 24/7. So we have to consider that. So we will have shifts. And again, we'll be using the whiteboard, the windows, or any other method of communication. And we'll create a chart for work hours and roles, what we need you for. Would it be distributing water? Would it be covering people, walking with them, whatever, sitting, moving them from a bed to a chair, etc. So we would also post the roles, medical persons, aides, scribes, and then the hours. And I have 4-hour shifts, but I got thinking, oh no, I have 2. I added the 2. 2 to 4-hour shifts work really nice, and that would be people's choices. And we'd be using military time, but you'll be able to figure that out, I'm sure. And we'll be filling in names of volunteers, so we'll be creating charts. So we see where we have spaces where there's nobody there, which we can't have, and where there will be people. We'll be using a special net form for that. It's pretty simple. So and also we found out if volunteers know in advance when they'll be relieved from their shift, they're more apt to comply, such as, I can do this for 1 more hour because I know someone's going to come and relieve me. So it's nice to have a chart that works. Okay, sanitation needs. Use of the 2-bucket system, and many of you have heard of that. And if you haven't, we have on Building Link, under disaster preparedness, all sorts of information as to how you can gather all this equipment. And so what we're going to do is, we're hoping a station for the injured and a station for volunteers, but who knows what we'll be able to come up with. That's the best scenario. But let's start with a clean station. And so we'll need some donations, like alcohol, based antiseptic solutions, Avogard. I know we have a huge box ourselves, but we can go through a lot of that. Packs of body wipes for washing down people, cleaning them up. Because there won't be water, so we can use body wipes. Liquid soap, if there is some water. We have pool water. We haven't discussed that or even thought about that, but there is pool water. Bleach, in a spray or solution, containers for these kinds of things, disposable gloves, gowns, shields, and masks. So those are some of the sanitation for clean. Then the next slide is the dirty station. I say dirty because that's kind of a medical term that we use, but for body fluids. So, for example, the 2-bucket system, but then a bottle for peeing for men, that really works well, like a urinal. And funnels for females, and I don't know if you're a camper, you might know this, but there's actually funnels so the female can be standing or use the 2-bucket system easier if you don't have a nice seat on it. Disposable gloves, again, toilet paper is really important. We're going to go through a lot of that. Masks and goggles, red plastic hazard bags, or the hazard tags, because we'll be collecting all that, and that will be a separate disposal rather than just the clean. Diapers, adult diapers, kids diapers, because we have children too. Female supplies, flatter pans for bowel evacuation if we have bedridden patients, sort of like a baking pan. Not very comfortable, but it's better than nothing, or simply adult diapers. It's very tricky. If someone can come up with some other ideas, I'd love to know. And then hazardous waste burial site. And the best way to do that, we've been taught, is to dig holes, large holes, and throw everything in the holes. And so you're securing that because you want to keep it away from loose animals. There'll be, unfortunately, animals running around. And also, it's just cleaner. We want to separate the clean from the dirty. So that's one thing you can expect. Then next slide is medical supplies, and I have a very exhaustive list of some of the things we have, like a sphygmomanometer, antibiotic ointments. We have loads of bandages, and we do have antiseptic, but not a whole lot. We also have normal saline to pour over to clean an area. I think we have hydrogen peroxide as well to clean areas. We have eye pads for eye injuries, and so et cetera, et cetera. And we have those, and I'll get to that in a minute. So we have some storage. We have them in storage for our projected needs. And that was done by a few physicians that got together and came up with a list, which we're very grateful for. And examples, those were the examples that I just mentioned. And again, they need to be secured. So once we start using all these, we have to make sure that they're secured, and no one's, because there'll be other people that would love to get into those supplies. And so what we've done as a committee, we've divided them up, and we have some in each building, so that if there was a damage to one building and we can't get to the supplies, we have another building to go to retrieve some supplies. So we've tried to think of everything. We could always use more help, though, in our thinking. Water needs, hydration. This is for the volunteers and the injured. Okay, so we have a volunteer, they're still going to need a bottle of water to get them through those 4 hours. So that kind of thing would be very helpful if people are willing to volunteer to get that water. And of course, there's the pumps that purify, and then there's a straw. They have life straw, and so on. So there's various water purification systems that can be used. And drinking cups or small bottles, so we have something to drink out of. And then food for the injured, food for the staff and volunteers. So just a simple list. We also need implements, because if we have some food, let's say we're eating chicken out of a packet, we're not going to use our hands, so we'll need disposable utensils. And we're looking for easy to eat foods. Canned beans, you don't have to cook them. Food bars, the tuna or peanut butter jelly sandwiches. But we're looking for perishable foods first, because they'll go first. So you always want to use, and then that's just for everybody to know, you want to eat your perishable foods before you get into all these other packaged foods. We're going to set up a volunteer schedule, again, using the communication that we talked about for the food, water, and supplies. And that doesn't take any training. Anybody can do that. So we welcome all the help we can get. Next. Medicine. It would be best, and only actually, residents have to supply their own medication as needed, because we will not have any medications. I mentioned antibiotic ointment. That's about as far as we go. But, so, if we have an injured person, then hopefully someone from their family can bring down their medications. And then what we prefer is that they administer their medications themselves. Next, the family member or friend can give them the medication. Last resort is the staff, volunteers, give the medication to them. But in many cases, they're in pill bottles, and you can see, give 1 pill at night, okay? It's not gonna be that hard, but we don't want mistakes. The medical area is not able to provide IV fluids, not able to really provide any medications except what you give us. No controlled drugs, we won't have those either, antibiotics. We wouldn't be able to do any surgery or suturing. But there are ways with bandages to close up a laceration. And if you need advanced care, then you would be on the list for first evacuated from our area. So that would be determined by the triage system for evacuation. But like I said, nobody knows when that could occur. Remember, the hospitals their staff will be in a situation we're in. They can't leave. So, and we can't get to there. So it will be a while before they clear the roads and make that available to us. And it could be a while. Hopefully it wouldn't be, but it could be. Emotional and psychological care and where you can help. And again, we'd want it in a quiet site as possible, and I suggested the boardroom or the pool area. We'll see what we can use. And what we'll need for that are caring persons, trained people, beacon, and you'll know if you're a beacon volunteer, we won't go into that, but you could do it. Persons experienced with trauma care. And persons with minor injuries, a cut here, a cut there, but they're still able, can help out too. So we want to use everybody we can. People that have good listening skills, and those willing to sit with the injured or the family of the injured. And then we will do some, and hopefully be able to do debriefing as that may occur as needed. And spiritual resources, we'll look for that too. Those people who could help out. Then we have to think of children again. And a guardian or family adult member must always be present if we're taking care of any children. And then elderly care, that's the most complicated, or can be, because the elderly come with multiple disease entities, and now they have an injury on top. So that requires a lot more than just somebody sick or somebody just hurt. And so they're obviously going to be taking daily medications. And the best scenario is to have a family or guardian present to assist, and also for communication, because there might be hearing problems, sight problems, etc. And the disabled persons. You want to get to know your neighbors prior to a disaster and see what needs they have. And we're using the use of floor captains to come up with that. But that's kind of, with COVID, it's kind of disappeared a little bit, but we're going to be bringing that back. We're going to have to bring that back. So, and then they can determine what their neighbors' needs are. And then with the disabled person, we also want to determine with them how to evacuate downstairs or to a medical area. Or maybe they'll have to stay in place. And in that case, and if they're running electric something, do they have a large battery to run it when there's no electricity? And maybe that's something that has to be put together before you need it and you can't get it. So that's something to consider. We were talking about a portable generator and then thinking, uh-oh, you can't really have that in the house. So that would be something that has to be looked at very closely, because I don't know about the decks, but again, that's a real consideration if we don't have electricity. Okay, the use of PT, meaning physical therapy, and those are little medical straps, and they put around a person's waist, and rather snugly. And then when they want to get up, you stand in front of them, you grab that strap, and you help them up. And then you can walk by holding onto that strap. Now you've probably seen people maybe on shows where you can grab the back of their pants, but that's not as nice and easy to do as a strap. I own one, but I don't think we don't have any, so that's some equipment we could look at in the future. It's very, very handy. Next, record keeping. We have forms for that, so I don't have to take a lot of time with this. The form will prompt you. So date, time, any vital signs, because we'll have a blood pressure cuff and all of that. And the type of injury we're most concerned about, what treatment you're getting or being given, and your current condition now. Medications that you might be taking, your emotional state, because we want a baseline for that to see where we're going to go from there. And your mobility needs, so we can move on to shift change. And again, we use what we call a report, because let's say you have 5 people in your area, then the next person comes on duty, then you would report about those 5 people so that they know how to take care of them. And then we move to the next shift and so on. And then the evening and night shift, we're open, as I said, 24 hours. So there would always be 2 volunteers present. And they don't have to be medical people, they just have to be somebody there that, one medical person, 1 person that's a volunteer. And 1 person on call and 1 on watch. So when you're on call, you can rest. So they would be nice for them to have a bedding or a cot for them to be resting, because this is an all-night affair, and you probably more likely would stay longer than 2 hours, because that's a lot of disruption, but whatever works. And then family and friends, like a child's family, needs to be there, so they need a little respite too. They could sleep next to the child, or the disabled, or the adult elderly. Okay, how it all works. The injured are, now, what we could do, well, let's start with this. The injured are brought to the medical area, or they walk in. And then the person that's going to do the treating identifies themselves and requests their permission to be treated. And that's does ask that we do that. That's very important. So I'm trained in first aid, and I'm here to help, is what would be said. Or just, if you can't remember, I'm here to help you. Will you give me permission? And then, like I said, we need to create that ID on the wristband, and then we make some kind of assessments of their injury. Where are their cuts? If you think they have a fracture. And the kind of injuries that we will expect in this situation are a lot of cuts, the glass and all, fractures from being thrown, head and spinal and crushing injuries, and possibly burns. We're not going to do a great job on burns, but we'll be able to do the best we can to treat people. And then we have that patient treatment record that I was talking about. And next is our triage chart. So this is the triage setup plan, sort of like what the room would look like. And you'll have an intake area, and that's where people first come in by the door. And that's where we take their information down and make a decision. What are they? Are they red, very injured? Are they yellow, where they can receive delayed care? We won't get to right now, but we will. You could have a fracture that's not too bad, that's delayed care. Or green, which is very minor, walking in, maybe sprained wrist, that kind of thing, or bruises, and they want someone to look at them, then they can sit along the wall and wait till we can get to them. And so what we do is with the red area, we have the treatment right there by them. So the treatment with all the supplies is right there. So that's, we don't have to be running all over, so that's how you would set that up. And then the private consultation area could also be another place. I always think of the pool for some reason, but sitting around a table at the pool and then talking to them. Maybe you want to say they're getting better, or we see them getting worse, but we need to be notifying you of that kind of thing. And then the morgue area is way off by itself, because what we would do is, sounds a little going further than I want to go into it, but it's realistic. We do have morgue bags or body bags, and a person, if they are deceased, would be put in that, and then in a secured area, or could be, if this is going to take a long time, actually buried in a big pit area on our grounds. Preferably not, but that's another choice, and NET does talk about it from that perspective. And next, so I'm just going to review then how triage works. If the person's deemed red area, or red immediate care, and treatable, they have to be treatable. I should mention that. If there's nothing we can do for you, then we give you comfort care. We can't use supplies that aren't going to work when we are limited in supplies. So it would be comfort care, but we want to assign them close to the best light, close to the supplies, and the most staff. And then the yellow area can be further away, the treatment can wait, as I said. The green area, friends and family can give the care. There's Band-Aids over here, here's some saline to put on, to clean, that kind of thing. It doesn't take a genius to do. And then we mentioned you need to treat the injuries to the best of your ability, like put direct pressure on a bleeding area. You have to know to be able to do that. And what we're asking is, it doesn't hurt for you to get in the future first aid training. Tom and I just took a course last year. It was nothing. It was an afternoon, and we got our CPR certification and our first aid. Great gal. There's a bunch of us in the room at Trilliger, and very simple, great. I mean, we knew it, but we needed to update our skills. So, lastly, what we expect to provide: care for basic needs, request more staff if we need it, so there will be a command center, and from there they can also use this bullhorn that we're thinking of buying to call up to you, hey, we need some help. The treatment would be given per your ability. The treatment per the availability of supplies. We do have a Stop the Bleed kit, but we don't have 10 of them, unfortunately. But we'll do our best to continue to purchase supplies. We need to be able to check the injured every 1 to 2 hours. Actual care, again, is best provided by a trained medical person, but we'll work with what we have. And somebody that's comfortable in first aid works just as well too. Untrained volunteers can assist as aides in various roles, filling water bottles, covering the injured, turning the injured, helping move and walk the injured. So you could see where any one of you with your abilities could come in and help, and that will be necessary. And then we'll be willing to improvise and also revise as necessary. So move a yellow person to the green zone because they're getting better. And lastly, important to know, some bits of information to keep in mind. And I didn't mention, I might have skipped the slide about planning. Tom did go over it. Without a plan, we have nothing. So we have to keep that in mind. This is a plan, and we can deviate from there. Logistics, and that's a whole group of people, should monitor and evaluate the need for supplies. And that could also mean shovels, big supplies for around the building to clear things away. Not all injuries can be treated. We have to remember that. We can only do our best. Resources will be used to care for those potential survivors. And we're going to be maintaining confidentiality. We all have signed HIPAA agreements. And that means that we're not going to talk to others about someone else's injury, except for the staff that are in the medical area. And the NET people warned us that there will be reporters coming around. There'll be people very interested in what we're doing. And so we're not allowed to talk to reporters. And we're referring them to the command center because the city command center would have our information, because we're going to be tabulating that and giving it to them, and that will be one of the first things we'll try to do. So they will go there. The preparedness equates to a calm and assured environment, and first aid, CPR, Stop the Bleed, and wilderness first aid training courses would be beneficial. You don't have to go all the way up that line, but it doesn't hurt to get a first aid course. It doesn't hurt you in real life, in anything, without having any kind of disaster. The use of imagination, ingenuity, and how to manage people are necessary skills, and clearly we require further meeting of the minds. But this is a good start, and I really appreciate your attention, and we will entertain questions and also solutions and concerns. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Oh, yeah. Well, the only other thing is 3x5, they're 3x5, I think, not 3x4, but 3x5 cards. If you want to volunteer, those are the 4 things we need. Your name, your email, your unit number and building, and skill. Are you a retired dentist, or it doesn't have to be a lot of, like a big list, an RN, aide in your lifetime, whatever, or just want to help out. Thank you. Yeah.
And put it in the box, right?
Yeah, and here we go, this was on.
Okay, anyone with questions?
Yes.
Not commentary or anecdote, questions.
Kathy, are you ready for questions?
Oh, yeah, I'm retiring.
I know. Have you made any plans for our pets?
Only we had a nice lecture and that lady came in, and that would be the only plans. The committee has not done anything else.
Can you reiterate that? I just don't, I don't think I was there at that, whoever
Yes,
came in.
Mary.
The woman was from the Humane Society, and she had an hour-long presentation with all the preparations for animals, and I demonstrated what's in my to-go bag for the dog.
Was that, okay, the animal was from the person was from the Humane Society. And it was an excellent hour-long talk. Was that taped?
I don't know, ask Rosemary.
We're going to
Rosemary?
try to redo it.
Oh, okay, we're going,
We'll
hopefully.
try in the next year or so to have another presentation.
Okay, and then we'll tape it. It's way too long to go into now. Yes, oh, great.
I have 2 things. One, Kathy, could you and Tom maybe get back to the idea of liability at some point? But the other one is, I'm sorry, a comment. I'm a retired physician, and I really appreciate all this, and at the same time feel like this is overwhelming. And what it does is points out to me how multifactorial it is. And the last or second last card that said imagination and ingenuity, yeah, and willingness to be available whenever something like this happens, if you can get out of your place, and if, so.
Exactly, but we have to start somewhere.
Right.
And you want to
Louis, I'll try to address the liability. It really is the Good Samaritan law that does not entitle someone to do brain surgery on the plaza because they're a plumber. You really, you do what is reasonable and what you are able to do. You don't go beyond your own skills. So you are protected up to the limits of what's reasonable. And that would go for lay or individuals as well as medical people. You really don't have a patient-physician relationship in the emergency kind of situation. You're going to do what you can, and you're going to probably do something that wouldn't fit into a medically conventional procedure, such as the individual who has a blocked airway in a car accident, and all you have in your hand is a ballpoint pen tube, and you take that and blow the ink out of it and push the tube into the trachea, and you can save their life. Now, that's not really an acceptable medical procedure, but it would be considered reasonable under the circumstances.
First, are you planning to update the list of people that have requested special help getting down the stairs in their units? There was a big list a few years back. It's obviously changed because people moved. And number 2, are the emergency generator as well as the garage, which is probably the sturdiest building we have, not viable to help us?
2 good questions. The list is typically maintained through our resident registry with the management, and you are allowed or asked to put down whether you need help or not. So it's up to the individual as to whether they list themselves or not, and whether they actually fill out the registration annually and update it to any changes in their condition. For instance, for a couple of weeks, I might have needed a little help because I had a hip replaced, but I didn't tell the management that I might have needed help. I was gonna let Kathy get her physical therapy belt and walk me down the stairs. So yes, we're trying to do that. It's a hard thing to get done. The second question.
The use of the emergency generator
Yes.
as well as the well-built and reinforced garage.
The emergency generators, some of them are operating on natural gas, and they will not be of any use because the natural gas will probably be off. The diesel generator is maybe 24 hours of power. It's up on the roof, and so you would have to acquire diesel fuel and carry it to the top. I think it's on Madison, and that's a real task. So you're going to have power probably for 24 hours to do the lights in the stairwells, etc. We'll have emergency battery lighting for the stairwells, but that'll take a little time to put up. Garage. Fingers crossed. I hope that the garage survives, and if it does, that would be a very good place for a lot of things, because it tends to be generally dry. It may have some running water on some occasions, and that may not be so bad, but we hope that it will be good. But fingers crossed that nothing bad happens, but you have to expect maybe it won't survive. We don't know.
Well, it's below ground to start with.
Yeah.
I'm making a comment. The garage would be, if it survives, will be good, but only if nobody starts a car in there because there's no exhaust. The fans will not run. So if anybody starts their car in there, it will make it unusable.
You won't be able to get out anyway, no electricity.
Well, the road,
You could get out, but there's no place to go.
See if my voice works. Has there been an attempt to organize a group first aid training that might encourage more people for our Towers group?
I think once we get Zippers open, it would be great to send out a survey by our building list.
That long?
You optimistic.
The comment was, wait that long, but hopefully it won't be long. And we can do that and get some people to sign up, and then we can get that same lady that we had at Terwilliger. By the way, we are not the only group that's doing this. There's a huge group in the Pearl, there's a huge group at South Waterfront, et cetera, doing this very same thing.
Could I make a comment? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it going there.
I'd like to make a comment. When I took my civil defense course, it was 2 full days. And you've done it all, and Kathy, in this just very, I don't know what short time, but you've done an extraordinary job pulling it all together, and really appreciate that. And just wanted to mention, look around your places. I mean, she mentioned she didn't have too many straps, but you all probably have carried your suitcases with those straps. That's all you need. Those are very important. That's how cart my luggage everywhere around the world. But I just wanted to say, again, this has been put together by you guys. This is absolutely the best. I'm hoping it's recorded and it can be shared with other people. Thank you.
I wanted to mention, I did give this talk to the city already, to the NET group in the city. So that was my first time doing it.
I just have a comment suggestion. When you get to the end of the year or the end of the quarter, you might have a over-the-counter allowance from your healthcare provider. Well, as I got to the end of the last quarter and I go, I've got $56 here or something or other, I now have a huge drawer full of pads, dressings, or whatever, because they've got a pretty unlimited shelf life. So if you're about to lose that over-the-counter benefit, and Pacific Stores has now upped it to $75 each per quarter. So if you get to the end of the quarter and you haven't spent it, stock up on some pads and bandages and tapes, and you can go down with a box that help everybody out.
What do we do if you're not around?
We don't allow them to leave.
Yeah, I know, that's what I was thinking.
That's why I'm teaching you.
So when it happens, earthquake happens, we're gonna, come down to the patio or something and, what do they call it, muster, and you're not there, what do we do? Figure out who's the best person to lead, just start doing, implementing your plan?
Or a
Where do we get the supplies?
Hopefully there'll be someone from our committee. Everybody in our committee knows where their supplies are and how to get to them. They are secure. So the committee members now, wouldn't it be great to join the committee? Get a lot of information. Don't hesitate.
Is it time for comments?
A couple of questions. Wouldn't we want that information, rather than it being generalized here, if we had the earthquake in 2 days, I wouldn't know who to approach. So don't we all need that information right now? Number two, do you have textbooks or manuals that are also easily available in all 3 places for trauma care, first aid? Because even without the training, the textbooks are extremely they're friendly, they're easy to follow for any kind of types of injuries that happen.
The operations plan is on the emergency preparedness website on blog. You have to go wading into it, but it spells out activities for everyone from the incident commander to the medical director to security, logistics, et cetera, and also on limited search and rescue types of operations. And that's laid out almost by bullet, but it's not to be dogmatic. Again, you improvise and use. It's just an idea of, did you think of this? No, I don't need to think of that. I need to think of the next item on the list, and that type of thing. I think that we have, the committee has put out a lot of handbooks on preparedness. If you haven't got one, I'm sure Rosemary will arrange for those to be delivered to people who don't. And, but I like the idea of having first aid manuals. They could be added to the medical supply caches.
They're relatively inexpensive. I looked them up.
Red Cross has a bunch of things like that.
Manuals that are very comprehensive.
That's excellent.
Yeah. Good idea.
I wanted to bring up a couple, 3 little ideas. Number one, it might be useful to have Sharpies largely available to write on the body. fracture or checked or whatever you need to know about that person so the paper doesn't get lost and you're going, well, no. Number two, listen to your voice. Hear how you're presenting yourself. I'm a retired nurse midwife, and one of the things I would tell the husbands was, you don't say, well, slow down, relax. They don't relax well. So keep track of your voice and what kind of presentation you're doing. And number three, if you somebody's down on the floor or down below you and you have to help them up, there is one ever so much easier way than the usual. Well, grab the wrist and start tugging. So if I can borrow a person. You want to stand up?
Okay, where am I supposed to be?
Oh, you're right there. Allow me to help you up. Elbow to hand, elbow to hand. Back on your feet, rock them up.
Okay.
And rock them down.
Okay.
It is ever so much better than.
You want to demonstrate that up there again so everybody can see you?
Okay, come on.
I'll be the volunteer.
Okay, you're down. Elbow to hand, foot back, rock them up. Rock them down if you need to, but that is by far the most supportive way to help a body with the least amount of damage.
To your back.
Thanks, Becky. Thank you.
Becky, sign up.
I did already, but that's.
Do it again. Yes, please.
Yeah, sign up again. You get 2 shifts every day.
When my mom got older, her cognitive ability was down, and she was also very weak. So my way of helping her, because sometimes she just got really confused. So I finally figured out one day. I said, "Give me a hug," and as I hugged her, then I pulled her up as I stood, and it worked. And because she got scared, otherwise that things. I mean, this sounds like it'd be better, but if that doesn't work, this worked too.
Good suggestion. I think it's looking really good.
We can end this session, and
We really appreciate your attentiveness. Thank you so much.
You can fill out your cards. Please put them in the little red box here on the right end of the table. And if you want to see any of the other forms and such, or the organizational chart, they're also on the table as well. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you so much, Tom and Kathy. I said we had experts here, and we do have experts, and a lot of them out here in the audience as well. Also, John Lambert, our amazing AV person, has informed me that he will be putting this recording out. Will it be on YouTube?
Yeah, I'll send a link out on YouTube.
So you
I
can
haven't
see it.
checked that it's worked. But
And also, you can let others who aren't here, that you tell about the presentation, let them know to look for it on YouTube.
okay. Yeah, we've got 3 mics now picking it up. So.
Oh, is that my problem?
Yeah,
Thank you.
4 mics. Okay.
Oh, these go in the red box, right here. Yes.
That's right.